One thing is, once you start doing anything for money, and writing about music is a little bit trickier because you're covering this industry that is just so weird and the people you deal with are so weird. And when you start writing about music, you realize, like people talk about sports, there's a lot of people who wish they could be athletes and then they can't do it, so they write. Right. Well, the music game is very, very similar in a lot of ways with that, where you got cats where the big thing is they just want to be around the industry. And subsequently, they want to be treated like people who are stars within the industry. And I just really ain't got a whole lot of time for that.
You do have star journalists, and that's not weird. Just like you have star commentators.
Yeah, no, like I say, there are. Like, for example, if John Caramanica were to walk in here right now, dude, it'd be shameful, the response that I would wind up having. Like, my dude I'm real cool with did that Baraka Flocka Flame video years ago, and Caramanica wrote about him. And I really hit him up, and I was like, dude, I got to tell you, I mean, it's not like John Caramanica would ever write about me, but I'm really jealous that you got this John Caramanica article, and I ain't met him yet.
He made a career out of it.
He made a career out of it. He really did, you know, but you're right. There are guys that are on that level, that are visible in that way, but it's just a grind. But I like talking about music in a way that is not necessarily for the consumption of everybody, because the things I listen to, and you see like the kind of ways I think about this stuff and the history and all connects, that ain't necessarily for everybody to listen to. And if I write about it and nobody else wants to hear about it and somebody pays me, then I have not done my job. Of course. It's my fault. Like, there's no question. A lot of people I'm not an artist. I'm an employee. Right. You know?
Now, where were you writing?
I wrote for Africana.com, is where I got my start with them. My man Ken Gibbs got that going. That was the beginning of that. And then when they went to AOL, they did that. I used to actually write about music stuff for Salon.com, like 10, 12 years old. I was 21, 22 years old. Wow. And I'd hustled away in there. So I used to write about older stuff for them, you know, occasionally.
And you're a big UGK fan.
I'm a big UGK fan.
We had Bun B here last week.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that. I've gotten in touch with him a couple of times about some stuff, which to me is like the coolest thing ever, right?
He's incredible.
He's the dude. Yeah, he is that dude. The fact that Bun B teaches a class at Rice,
which is crazy,
the most amazing thing in the world.
And then go in a recording booth and then go do Gumball. Yeah. It was crazy.
Well, what he is, he's one of those cats that people don't realize is, like, not just smart in that he knows some things about the world, is smart in that well-read, you know, sort of way. Is a very sophisticated understanding of all these things.
And loved.
Yes.
While he's still alive.
He is as respected as anybody that you will find.
If not more.
Honestly, who can you think of that's more universally respected?
If not more, I mean, I don't know, Snoop, man.
Like Chuck D or somebody like on that level, you know?
Yeah, what's your favorite UGK song?
Ooh, favorite UGK song is a tricky one. Off the top of my head, it's Cocaine in the Back of the Ride. Off the top, Pinky Ring is way up there. Cocaine in the Back of the Ride is a monster, though. Pocket full of stones.
Woodwheel.
And the thing about Cocaine in the Back of the Ride, that's done in 1987. What?
That's crazy. Now, how do you make this journey, man? How do you make this journey from music writer to where you are right now?
I'll tell you, I got lucky. I met Ralph Wiley. That was the thing. A buddy of mine was doing a book signing in 2002 or 3, and he met Ralph Wiley. And it was 03, and I remember I had just written something about, it was about The Source, when Benzino went ape shit over Eminem. Right. And I was really proud of what I'd written, and my boy had met Ralph. I was like, yo, man, send him a link. Just, you know, I didn't want anything from it. I was just like, send it to him. And he sent my boy a response back and said, tell Bomani if he keeps writing exceptional shit like that, he's going to be dangerous. And for Ralph Wiley to say that, that's the man in my world. You know, he helped write the screenplay for He Got Game. Like all this kind of stuff, varied sort of things I'm doing now are things that he had done before. He put together the team that represented Rocket Ismail going in the draft. That's why he quit Sports Illustrated. Because they told him he couldn't do that. He said, fine, then I'll go do this. Then he went and wrote those books. Then he wrote the book with Johnny Cochran. Then he got back on with ESPN. Like he had done all those things, and he thought my shit was dope.
Which is crazy.
It was the craziest thing in the world. And I remember I never asked him for anything. We just went back and forth. I would talk about sports stuff with him. I'd send him links as I had him. He'd tell me when he was too busy to read something or whatever it was, or if he didn't find. But I remember I was clear. I was like, I'm never going to ask for anything here, right? And then one day I looked up, this was February of 04. I was in a computer lab at University of North Carolina. I was in grad school. And I got this email that said ESPN.com query. And it was from the editor at page 2 at the time. And he said, because Ralph had hit me up about a story, and I said, look, I know a couple people at this office that might be able to help you if you want to write about it. Instead of writing about it, he told them to call me and have me write about it. And the next thing you know, I was in. So I figured they'd never call me again. I didn't write anything for ESPN.com about sports for another 6 months. But I hit the guy up, the editor I had talked to before. We were both Braves fans, so we went back and forth. And then I'll never forget, he said, so well, if you get a chance to write about this topic, go ahead and write about it. I said, cool. 2 hours later, I sent him 1,500 words. Like, okay, here you go. Like, I wasn't missing this. I got 2 hours right now. I'm going to write it. And then I just got in and met a few more people, and people, I wasn't certainly not the most recognized person, but people who wrote seem to have an appreciation for what I was doing. So then as we got more and more into it, in 2005, they flew me up to Bristol because that's some venture they were working on and they wanted me to be a part of it. And it wasn't much money. I want to say it was like $250 or $350 an article or something like that. You know, I wasn't getting rich by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, but I didn't have much money. And then I didn't need much money, rather. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take this next calendar year and I'm going to work to try to get them to give me a contract. And for that next year, I did not work for them, but they were basically the only people that I worked for on freelance. I woke up in the morning, I sent off ideas every week. It was like, I'm going to get this deal.
You saw it. You saw the deal.
I thought I could get it.
You visualized it and you saw it.
I saw it, but I tell you this, boy, I didn't realize exactly what the deal was.
But unlike Iverson, you practiced.
I worked. I wrote. Reggie could tell you, I was talking about that time reading my blog. I was writing 2 or 3 times a day on that blog because there was no editor. There was no barrier. I was going to get better.
And that was the time when everybody was about that. Dallas Penn was writing like that. I was writing like that. It was like this thing in the air where blogs were it. And it was the primary form of communication online at the time.
And for somebody who wanted to be, for lack of a better term, a professional, I got to find my voice writing on that blog because I didn't have any other place. I was always writing for editors. I'd only been writing for like 5 years. So, that's not a long time at all. So I wrote on that blog and it crafted it. And I'll never forget with ESPN, I went to a convention in 2006 and I had been trying to get a contract, hadn't got a contract. Nobody wanted to give me a contract. They didn't want to give me the contract. And I went to this convention. This woman worked at ESPN, saw me and she says, well, you got a contract, right? I said, no, ma'am. She says, why not?
Why not?
And I was like, well, I don't really have an answer for that. I don't give the contract because I'd have gave myself 5 contracts, if I had the decision. So the next day I went to Chicago for a meeting with those guys and I'm in the meeting and somebody made some joke and it just like fart in church, didn't go over. And somebody said, hey man, once you get a contract, your jokes have to be better. And then somebody goes, well, hey, Bomani wishes he had a contract, ... And I was like, what? I remember I had to go outside, walk around, because Scoop Jackson was there in the room with me at the same time. And I remember looking at him. He was like, oh, I had to go walk around and get myself right. And I came back, and on that Monday, I called the guy up and I said, look, I really don't like the way that went in that room.
Because they were clowning you.
Yeah, and you the guy that makes the decisions on who gets the contracts. You can't joke about it and not give me the contract
so you raised
at the same time.
You raised up.
Yeah, and he listened to me and said, you know what? We talked about it over the weekend and you're right. And we need to make it happen. And they made it happen.
Nice.
And then 1 year later, it wasn't happening no more.
Grand opening.
Grand closing, and it was a lesson for me though. Do your work and get your work as good as where it is, because all this, I want to work at a destination. Once you get to the destination, you don't know what it is. Like, with law school, how many people go to law school, call themselves wanting to be lawyers, 2 semesters into law school, like, what in the world am I doing? Or 3 years out, they're done, they're studying for the bar and realize they're doing something they hate. And they've invested 6 figures in getting to that point. Now it just got to a point where it's like, I'm going to do this work. I do it for me. I do not, I'm concerned with the interest of my bosses or everything like that. But I just decided 12 years ago when I first got into this, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on it. And if I can't live off of it, then we'll do other stuff to make money. But everything I did was with an eye toward working on it still. So when I was in grad school with economics at that time, I wanted to try to do that public intellectual thing, like the Michael Eric Dyson, Cornel West thing. Come on now, I see what they doing. It ain't as hard as it looks. I was like, I can pull that off. Then I got in that PhD program and I hated it. It made me miserable. I didn't perform well in it. It wasn't what I thought I was signing up for. But all those skills that I had picked up in the course of that, I'm using game theory all the time on television. I just don't call it game theory. There's no point in doing that. So it was just a matter of, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it as well as I can. I'm going to understand it. Like, if you're doing school stuff, it can't be about the grade. You got to understand it. And then once you understand it, now I'm at a point where we make comedy videos. But if you call me to come on Outside the Lines and talk about these deeper issues or historical stuff, well, we can do that too. If you need somebody just to write a column or to cover a game, okay, well, I can do all of those things too. So now in this new landscape of the media where there's so many different ways to do things and there's a value for the ability to combine all of them, now I'm in as advantageous a place as you could ask for, because if SB Nation or if ESPN shuts it down or whatever, it wouldn't be terribly out of the question for me to tell my agent, hey man, call Fuse or one of those sets of people and say that I want to try to do some music stuff again. I'm still here. People know who I am.
Right, exactly. You're not defined by ESPN or SB Nation.
No, this is it. I work at home. I work in North Carolina. doing this ESPN stuff. The SB Nation studios are actually based here, not too far from Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
But I'm in North Carolina. I've got my team of guys who work on those videos. Those are guys that I've known for years. We work together. We come up with the concepts. They get paid. I get paid. We keep putting this stuff out. We come up with the ideas. They've given us the freedom, thank goodness, to come up with these ideas and to put this stuff out.
And you got a lot of freedom, B.
Yeah, I got all the freedom in the world.
I've looked at some of those videos, man. Number one, they look great.
Thank you.
Like, technically, they're on point from the graphics, from the content, the cuts, the whole.
The video that you find. I mean, they're dope. They're dope. I mean,
and then you go in.
You
go in.